That's where the two other suspects, 47-year-old David Moran and 25-year-old Thomas Driver, are right now.
They staged a homicide scene where they took photos of the former inmate here that he had been murdered.
Photographs were shown to each of these men.
KKK is one of the most notorious hate groups in American history. But what happens to its members once they're incarcerated? Thomas Jordan. Recently, 3 Klan-affiliated prison workers were arrested for plotting to murder a black inmate. The plot emerged after Officer Thomas Jordan Driver clashed with the inmate, further fueling their motive. The FBI uncovered the conspiracy through a confidential informant within the Klan. This informant, present during discussions among Driver, Moran, and Newcomb, recorded incriminating conversations where the men expressed their intent to kill the inmate, often using racial slurs. Their initial attempt failed, but they persisted in their plans, with Driver confirming his desire for the inmate's death despite the setback. The case shows ongoing issues within Florida's prison system, already marred by controversies including allegations of employee misconduct and inmate mistreatment. The state's Attorney General, Pam Bondi, charged the 3 men with conspiracy to commit murder. She emphasized,
"I'll tell you, we will not tolerate, ever remain silent over the violent hatred embedded in prejudice." The inmate was then released from prison. They later cased the inmate's home in an attempt to murder him.
Julie Jones, the Department of Corrections Secretary, condemned the actions of the accused as unacceptable, asserting a zero-tolerance policy toward racism and prejudice. The arrests have further tarnished the department's reputation, already strained by past incidents of inmate abuse and questionable practices. Driver and Moran were detained in Union County Jail, while Newcomb awaited trial in Alachua County with a substantial bond. The Klan's leadership distanced itself from the accused, asserting a stance against illegal activities within their organization, awaiting court decisions to determine the members' fate. Larry Webster. In July 2000, Larry Webster faced harsh treatment in prison after being brutally attacked by fellow inmates. Webster, 42 at the time, had been arrested in Galveston, Texas, on charges of kidnapping and robbery. His affiliation with the KKK, a notorious white supremacist group with a history of violence and racism, made him a target among the diverse prison population. Despite requesting administrative segregation for his safety, Webster was placed in a cell with black prisoners due to overcrowding. Upon seeing his Klan tattoos, the inmates recognized him as a Klansman and subjected him to physical assault, including kicks to the face, resulting in serious injuries that required emergency room treatment. Webster subsequently filed a lawsuit against Galveston County, arguing that jail officials had negligently placed him in a situation where his safety was compromised due to his known Klan background. Remarkably, Webster represented himself during the 4-day civil trial and managed to secure a favorable verdict. The federal jury awarded him $55,000 in damages, $5,000 for actual damages, and $50,000 in punitive damages. The jury's decision held Sheriff's Major Eric Nevelow and Sergeant Leslie Hobbs responsible for Webster's mistreatment, emphasizing their negligence in protecting him despite the evident risks associated with his beliefs. Don Glowacki, the county's lawyer, acknowledged Webster's effective legal representation, noting it was the first case he had lost in his 17-year career. Despite winning the civil case, Webster still faced a separate criminal sentence of 10 years for the kidnapping and robbery charges. Frazier Glenn Miller Jr. Frazier Glenn Miller Jr., notorious for his involvement in the 2014 shootings at a Jewish community center and retirement home in Kansas City, faced severe consequences in prison. After being convicted of capital murder and other charges, he was sentenced to death by a Kansas jury in 2015. Despite attempting to appeal his sentence in 2021, Miller ultimately passed away in prison on May 3, 2021, at the age of 80. The Kansas Department of Corrections attributed his death to natural causes based on their initial assessment. Prison life for someone like Miller, a former KKK member and outspoken white supremacist, would have been fraught with challenges and dangers. Inmates with high-profile cases often face isolation or special housing to protect them from potential harm from other prisoners who may oppose their beliefs or actions. This segregation aims to maintain order and ensure the safety of both the inmate and the prison staff. In addition to physical safety concerns, Miller's time in prison would have been marked by the harsh reality of a death row existence. While awaiting execution, inmates typically experience a strict routine with limited privileges, including restricted visitation rights and minimal recreational opportunities. The emotional toll of impending execution, coupled with the isolation from loved ones and the outside world. Despite his notoriety, Miller's death in 2021 closed a chapter in the legal and penal system. His case highlighted broader issues surrounding hate crimes and extremism, prompting discussions about the justice system's handling of such cases and the impact of radical ideologies on society. Edgar Ray Killen experienced significant challenges and events during his time in prison. Convicted in 2005 on 3 counts of manslaughter, he began serving a 60-year sentence in the Mississippi Department of Corrections system from June 27, 2005. Killen's experience in prison included legal battles and health issues. Despite being released on appeal bond due to health concerns, including claims of limited mobility, he was later found to have misled the court about his condition. This led to his bond being revoked, and he was returned to prison for the remainder of his sentence. During his incarceration, Killen faced further legal setbacks. His requests for a new trial were denied, and he remained in custody at the Central Mississippi Correctional Facility near Pearl after his conviction was affirmed by the Mississippi Supreme Court in 2007. In addition to legal struggles, Killen's health deteriorated while in prison. He required hospitalization in a Jackson hospital to treat complications from a leg injury sustained earlier during his imprisonment. Interestingly, in a twist of fate, Killen developed an unexpected relationship with James Hart Stern, an African-American preacher who shared his prison cell from August 2010 to November 2011. Dylan Storm Roof, an avowed white supremacist and mass murderer, has faced severe consequences following his heinous actions at Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Charleston, South Carolina, on June 17, 2015. Roof's attack during a Bible study resulted in the deaths of 9 African-American churchgoers, including senior pastor Clementa C. Pinckney, and left another person injured. Roof's legal journey has been marked by significant milestones and penalties. In federal court, he was convicted on all 33 charges, including hate crimes, stemming from the Charleston shooting. On January 11, 2017, he received a death sentence for these federal crimes. Additionally, Roof faced state charges in South Carolina, where he pleaded guilty to 9 counts of murder, 3 counts of attempted murder, and weapons possession. To avoid another potential death sentence, he accepted a sentence of life in prison without parole on March 31, 2017. Subsequently, on April 10, 2017, Roof was sentenced to 9 consecutive life terms after formalizing his guilty plea in state court. Currently, Roof is incarcerated on death row at USP Terre Haute, awaiting execution. Life on death row involves stringent conditions and limited privileges. Inmates typically spend most of their time in isolation, with restricted contact with other prisoners and limited visitation rights. The psychological toll of awaiting execution can be profound, affecting both the inmate and their family. In addition to the legal ramifications, Roof's actions have had a lasting impact on race relations and discussions about domestic terrorism in the United States. His attack at Emmanuel AME Church was motivated by racist beliefs and aimed at sparking racial conflict, a motive he confessed to during his arrest. Roof's manifesto and online presence revealed his deep-seated hatred and adherence to white supremacist ideologies, which he claimed were influenced by previous racially charged incidents. While Roof awaits the final outcome of his legal appeals and sentence, his case continues to prompt discussions about hate crimes, gun violence, and the justice system's handling of domestic terrorism. The Charleston shooting remains a tragic reminder of the persistence of racial violence and the challenges in addressing extremism within society. And finally in the list, we have Henry Francis Hayes, Henry Hayes was arrested and later convicted of capital murder for his role in the killing of Michael Donald, an African-American teenager, in Mobile, Alabama. Despite the jury recommending life imprisonment, the judge sentenced Hayes to death. He was incarcerated at the Holman Correctional Facility in Atmore, Alabama, while awaiting execution. On June 6, 1997, Henry Hayes was executed in Alabama's electric chair, known as Yellow Mama. His execution marked a significant event as Alabama's first execution for a white-on-black crime since 1913. The execution was witnessed by Michael Donald's brother, highlighting the emotional gravity and historical context of the case. James Tiger Knowles, another individual involved in the crime, avoided a death sentence by cooperating with authorities and testifying against Hayes and others. Knowles pleaded guilty to civil rights violations and was sentenced to life in prison. He served 25 years before being paroled in the mid-2000s. Now, if you find this video informative, then make sure to give it a like and also hit that subscribe button for more such content.